I am Susan Durham. I'm Senior Advisor for Grants and Community Partnerships at the Mayor's Office here at Louisville Metro Government. You all are aware that we have several grant applications that are open right now. And if you open chat, which on my screen, the chat button is all the way over to the bottom right, you will see links to the various opportunities that are open and to some web pages that provide more information, as well as a link to Unigrant's portal, which is the software we use for our applications. I'm going to share my screen. And the first thing we're going to look at is the main external agency fund page that we have on our web page, our website. And that's the very first link I put up at the top. I encourage you to review this page. There are links to go to each of the 3 external agency fund grants. That grant opportunities, Office of Social Services. And I hope that you will bear with me. I have worked here for a long time. I've worked in grants for a long time, and I use a lot of acronyms. If you don't know what one of my acronyms is, please let me know. But Office of Social Services is OFF. Arts and Creative Industries has a grant page related to their external agency fund or EAF grant for art and culture organizations. And then there's the Youth Engagement Services or YES funding that's awarded through our Office of Violence Prevention or OVP. You can't take the acronyms away from me. I'm really sorry. If you scroll down here, you can see that all of these grants opened on the 12th of January, and they close at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, February 24th. That is 5 p.m., all right, not 11:59 like a lot of grants close. I am conducting a couple of office hours sessions for grant writing. You can come in and ask me, oh, how do I best answer a question like this one that's in the application? And I can give you pointers. I can give you best practices. We can talk about, if you've got a lot of information and you're not sure what's most important to include, we can talk about that. These are not trainings. These are where you come with a question or multiple questions and I answer them. We held one last week. The next one is Thursday, February 5th. It's from noon to 2, and you just come to this page and click join here. Here's a link to our portal, which is where you apply, and I put that in chat. If you have any technical problems while you're using the software, this is the email address you reach out to, support.ecivis@unasolutions.com. Each one of our grant programs has a handbook, a guidelines book, and that information is in that guidelines book. So you don't have to come back to this page to find it. We've given it to you various ways. If you have a problem that's not technical, where you just can't figure something out, where do I put this information? Each one of the agencies has listed someone you can contact, so you'll reach out to that person. But if you go in and something truly tech related is happening, perhaps your application won't load, you would reach out to the Euna folks, the Euna support team. I will tell you, we've been using this software now for a year, and we have experienced only about 4 real technical problems that whole time. It's a good system. It doesn't create a lot of problems. We want to make sure that everybody's able to submit their applications on the 24th, or certainly try to submit them as early as possible. We gave everybody 2 extra weeks this year to complete applications, but if you're trying to complete your application on the last couple of days, we have 2 office hours sessions that I'm holding. The mornings of Monday, February 23rd and Tuesday, February 24th from 9 to noon. If you're having trouble, if you keep trying to submit and it says you haven't completed everything, but you can't figure it out, come to this office hours. I can hopefully solve the problem for you. I will tell you that last year and in each subsequent grant opportunity we've had available, people have had the most trouble with what's called the budget form. I'm going to walk you through the budget form today. We also have on this page a user guide, so an applicant and grantee guide. I highly suggest you download this guide and use this as you're working on your application. It goes step by step by step. And over this fall, I rewrote the section on the budget form to there's so much information on there now that I'm hopeful that nobody's going to struggle with the budget form. We also have training videos, so if you need to just watch a short video on how to register in the portal, how to start your grant, how to complete the written application forms, and those are the what I'm calling the forms where you actually have to type in written answers, written responses, as opposed to just keying in numbers. That's this, completing the budget form. So here is the budget form. If there are no matching funds in your budget, and if you are applying for external agency fund grants, that's the video you need to watch. We don't require you to report matching funds in Euna for your external agency fund grants. If anybody's applying for the HUD grant and has true federal matching funds, I don't see that Office of Social Services has posted the training video for budgets that have those matching funds. I'm happy to send you that video if you reach out to me. Remind me to put my email address in the chat. Also, I'm going to reach out to OSS and see if they will just go ahead and post that on their HUD page. There's a form called the goals form. This tells you how to complete it. And then this video tells you how to submit it. If you have questions, you can reach out to each of these three programs right here. And we also have specific people you can reach out to on the solicitations. So that's this page. There's a lot to it. Again, I highly encourage you to download this grantee guide. It's rewritten. It's an improvement. We took lessons learned and added all the information we thought was needed into it. And then these videos are there. So I gave you the link to the portal. This is what it looks like. If you applied last year for these grants, then you applied in a system called eCivis. This is the exact same system. However, they underwent a branding change due to a merger or an acquisition. If you already have an eCivis account that you've used, just use that, but you'll still use the same link, the link that I put in chat. You do not have to open up a new account because this now says Euna. If you need to create an account, you're going to click on this button. It's going to ask you just these few questions: first name, last name, email address, and password. Once you enter all of that and it's satisfied with your password, that sign up button is going to appear. I think I've maybe messed up sharing my screen. Let me just stop real quick and start again. Oh, hello everybody. When I started sharing my screen, there were only 3 other people in here. It's good to see a bigger crowd. So I can't click sign up, but you would click sign up. Then what's going to happen is you are going to get an email, and the email is not going to say Euna, it's going to say eCivis. Why they changed the branding on the system but didn't change the email branding is a puzzle that I can't solve. You should get that email quickly within a minute, probably less, of when you click sign up. It's no different from when you sign up for any online web page or any app. What we've found, though, is that sometimes if organizations have a good firewall, a strong firewall, these emails will either end up in your spam folder, your junk folder, or they'll get caught up in your firewall and your system won't send them through because it looks like a solicitation. So be sure you check your junk folder, your spam folder, and if you have a firewall system that you need to log into and release emails, you might have to do that. The good news is once you do that the first time, you shouldn't have to do that anymore. The eCivis emails should come straight to you. Now, once you have once you complete that portion after you get the email, you basically confirm your account, and then you can go in and log in.
What was the name of that other portal that we should look for? It's not going to be Unigrant, but I didn't know how to spell that.
Oh, so Unigrants, EUNA is where you're operating. The
And
old, it used to be called eCivis, that's ECIVIS. And
okay,
if you were to open your chat box, I've put links, a bunch of links in there, including the link to this portal.
okay, yes, I do have that.
Okay. So to log in, you have to put in your email address. Okay. Now let's look at the portal. Yours is going to look similar to this, but if it's new, there's not going to be anything here. You're going to have a tab called My Applications, My Awards, and My Profile. My Applications is where you're going to apply. Obviously, My Awards is where you're going to manage your awards. In My Profile, you're welcome to fill this information out. It does not come over to us, so we don't need you to fill it out, but you really can if you want to. So on my applications page, one thing that's a little bit confusing about this system, because I think some people are used to using, say, grants.gov or a database that you can apply from, I'm sorry. Euna doesn't work like that. To be able to apply for a grant, you have to push the grant into the system. And I'm going to show you how to do that. It's very easy. But as you can see here, I've got a couple of applications for something called Panelists and Staff Training Program. One of them's in draft stage, one of them's completed, and that's all I have here. So there's not a bunch, you don't see our external agency fund grants sitting there ready for you to apply. They're not there. And so the next question should be, well, where do I find them? Each one of our grants has something called a solicitation. And this is what a solicitation looks like. We're going to look a little bit later at the real solicitations from the open grants. This one is a testing grant that I made up for this training. Solicitation has 5 different tabs. Mine's light on information because, of course, this is not a real grant, but this first tab, which is overview, should tell you the name of it, when the application opens, when it closes, might have additional information here. If it's a real grant, this summary section is probably going to have a lot of information that you need to read thoroughly. Eligibility this section will tell you who's eligible. For most of our grants, it's nonprofits, but sometimes we award grants to other governments or universities, and we have a small business grant, a couple of small business grant opportunities that are available through our Office of Economic Development. And so this will tell you who can apply. Financials, this could be all filled out or only a portion could be filled out. That this one in this training grant, I put the minimum grant at 25,000 because that's what our real grants start. Our external agency fund grants, the minimum's 25,000. Here it could tell you the number of awards, the average size, and then if matching is required. But don't be concerned if some of this isn't filled out. And then there might be notes here. It's likely that you will see a lot of information over here about your budgets and about eligible and ineligible cost. Then there's contact information, and you can see who to contact for this grant. This email address that I have in here, I made up. It's not a real email address, but we'll look at the email addresses for our actual grants. And then there is a files tab. And if you've got something that says grant guidelines or FAQs, you want to make sure to download that and save it. It's going to be very helpful information for your application. There could be other files as well besides downloads. Office of Violence Prevention has certain priority zones, and their solicitations files tab has maps of all of those zones. So this is um, what the solicitation looks like, but the most important part of it is this apply button. So I'm already logged in to my portal. I suggest you log into your portal, but you don't have to. You can log in afterward, but you, on the solicitation for the grant you want to apply for, you just click this button. And now it says fiscal year 27 EAF applicant and grantee training. So that's the name of this grant. And if you click this green button, you can create a new application.
Green button.
Takes a few seconds to load. And down here is the application. You can see right here the status is in draft. And here it says project title, and it's filled in the information with this weird alphanumeric number. That alphanumeric number is an identifier that Euna creates. This is going to change once you put in the project title that you have. So you click on this project title and the application is going to appear. I'm going to walk you through these application components and then we're going to look at them. At the very top is a way you can add team members. It's very important to know that this application belongs to whoever has the Euna Grants account. It's not your overall organizational application. I realize your organization is going to, be the grantee and the applicant, but what I mean by this is the application is tied to you if you're the person whose account this is. No one else from your organization would be able to log in and work on that application unless, one, you gave them your login information, which, of course, I'm not going to encourage you to do, or if you add them as a team member. So you can add them as a team member. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that. You click Add Team Member, and then you can put in their email address, click Send, and I'm going to do that in just a second, but I have to tell you something really important. We've found that people have added the team members and put their information in. Then the people get an email saying, hey, come join this team and work on this application with me. But when they set up their Euna account, they use a different email address. Let's say that you have you work for a nonprofit, but you're also a teacher at U of L. And so I put in your email for you being a nonprofit person working at the same nonprofit I do and click send. But then when you sign up, you actually use your U of L email address. Well, through that U of L email address, you would never get to this application. So if you've got somebody who has multiple email addresses, be sure you check with them about which email you should send this to. So you can click send. It says invitation sent successfully, and it shows that the invitation has gone to me. I'm not going to go through this, but I could show you. I've probably gotten an email that says, do you want to join this? And I can click and complete the process and join this application. You can also delete this invitation or resend it if you'd like. Now over here are the application components. This is what I call the bucket in which the application lives. It calls itself a stage, and it shows that the overall application is not started. If I click on this, all it does is give me some brief instructions, and you can see there's nothing else there. And so it's not a form. It's just everything down here lives within this. And it's only when when all of this is ready to submit, that you can submit the whole application. Now, these that are kind of indented from the application stage are what I call the written application forms. Now, we can have as few as one form or as many forms as we want to have. Our best practice, which we learned after last EAF cycle, is to have no more than two unless there's a very important reason. So maybe there's very specific information that needs more, but you should probably just see one or two forms in your applications. They could be named anything. It just depends on your grant that you're applying for. And here I've called them core information and applicant and project information. We're going to look at those, but here I'm going to show you, this is that budget form that I discussed. And then down here's the goals form. And all of that has to be addressed before you can apply. Down here you can see submit application, but it's grayed out. I can't do anything there. And it says all forms must be completed in order to submit the application. All right, so I'm just going to briefly say this again. You're going to have this bucket. You're going to have one or more forms to complete, the budget form, which must be completed, the goals form, which we're going to talk about more later, and then you'll be able to submit. So let's go into this first written application form, which I've called core information. Here you can see everything's grayed out. I can't do anything, and that's because I first have to hit the edit button. Once I hit the edit button, I get the choice to cancel or save as complete. I can't save it as a draft until I start entering information. You have to complete every question that has a red asterisk. Anything that's got a red asterisk is required. You can't save it as complete if you haven't completed all of those red asterisk questions. Anything that doesn't have the red asterisk is not required, but you might choose to fill it out anyway. I made very few things on this testing grant required because I did not want to take time during a training to fill out all of this information. So I'm just going to put in some information here. And now you can see I can save it as a draft. And in fact, I am going to save it as a draft so we can see what happens over here. Now you can see that the application stage is in progress and the core information form is in draft form. I'm going to go back into it Here's my project title. I'm going to put that in. This one is authorized representative. You're likely going to have to answer this question for all of our applications. Business finance representative. So this is who's the accounting person we're going to be working with. You might need to do the project representative. So that's going to be your program manager, essentially. Who's the main person we're going to work with on the project? And then you might have to enter in the name of another key team member or members. You might not, but here this is required. So I'm going to fill this out. Okay. Now, if we go through here, there's a lot of missing information, but I've completed everything that's required, and that's all I'm going to do for this training. And now I can export it to PDF if I want to keep a copy. I can save it as draft, but I'm finished, so I'm going to save it as complete. And now you can see the overall application is in progress, but the core information form is completed. Does that mean you cannot make any changes? No, even though it's completed, until you submit the grant, you may go back in and edit it, and then you'd save it as complete again. Now we're going to look at this other application form. And I will tell you, this form is much shorter than any of our real application forms are going to be. I put certain questions on here so that you could see the type of responses that you might need to provide. So a numeric response, a date response, a paragraph response, type in numbers, things like that. So again, we can't do anything until we hit edit. And the first thing is request amount. For our EAF grants, the lowest amount you may request is $25,000, so keep that in mind. I'm going to request 50. Here, this question is organization's mission and achievements. Below some of these questions, you can find instructions. So that says provide your organization's mission and describe your 5 most significant achievements from the last 2 years. If there were a word count or a character count, you would find it right here. There's not one. In that case, Euna allows 8,800 characters for anything that doesn't have a smaller character amount. So you're gonna provide that answer, a written response. Oh, and I must have put a character limit on there because it says 2,000. Here is somewhere you can, check your answer. So what's your project's target population? And down here it says select all that apply. If this were an actual grant, you would have these written out. So it would describe the actual populations. But, I wasn't going to do that just for the training. And so I'm selecting these populations. I could select all of them if they all applied. You're able to select as many as apply to you. Project description. This is another written question, and down here there's no character limit, so you would have that 8,800 characters. Project start date and end date. You might go in and select. You can also just type in the dates. Now here I've put this calendar year, but our external agency grants and our HUD subawards start on July 1st. So I'm going to dates there would be. I am getting some notifications that I'm having network issues. Are we okay? And can you all still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, apologies if there are network issues. All right, so your project might not go from the start of our fiscal year to the end of the fiscal year, and that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I used those dates so everybody was aware that's the grant period for us. But your project might go on well past that date, or it might start on September 1st. So this is a yes or no answer where you would use the drop-down box. So does your project operate in Louisville Metro, Jefferson County, Kentucky? So if you've got a drop-down, you just select. And then this is really important. Some of our grant applications require really detailed information that would be difficult to put into these types of questions. We have to build all of these questions from scratch in the software. And while Euna is great with providing various types of questions, it's not as good sometimes as having, say, an Excel form, having a spreadsheet. So if you have something like this that's got a link, and this one says download the budget form, complete it, and then upload it into this application form, you would click on this. It's going to download into your downloads folder. You're going to open it, complete it, and then upload it here. We might also have just some add files that don't have any associated downloads. For instance, if we wanted to have your most recent W-9 form, we might just ask you to upload it. So we wouldn't have a download. We just ask you to upload it. Now, I am going to upload a document here to show you how easy it is. But I know your real question has to be, Susan, you told us there's this budget form over here we have to complete. Why are you showing us an example of another budget form? Well, the reason is that in this built-in budget form, the only thing we want you to put in there is your request to us. We only want the budget that you're requesting from us. We don't want your whole project budget. We don't want your whole organizational budget. We don't want to see, the other forms of funding that you're bringing to the project. None of that. And it's because this budget, if your grant's awarded, that becomes the basis of your award. And then it becomes the basis of your reporting, your financials to us. And so this is only your request. And sometimes our agencies are going to need more financial information than what we want you to put in that budget form. Now, I do have one exception, and that is if you are completing this budget form, not for our external agency fund grants, but if anybody's here for our HUD program and you have matching funds, you're going to complete this for your request and include the matching fund information there. All right, those of you who are here for EAF, you're just including your request. Now I think I've completed everything here. So I'm going to mark as complete. And over here, you can see this says complete. Now, if you look down here, you can see the submit application button has turned blue. If I click this, it might let me submit my application. Do not submit your application. Do not submit your application until you go into these two forms, okay? I do not know why Euna allows this. We've asked them to correct it. Maybe they will in the next few weeks, but as of now, it looks like if you just fill these two forms out, you can submit your application, but that's not correct. You must complete everything here. I'm going to click the budget form and it's going to open up in another tab. And this is what it looks like. Before I start entering any budget information, I'm going to walk through the form. Up here, it tells you the name of your organization, the grant program you're applying for, the project name you provided. This is pre-award stage. Here is a save button, and it won't let me save though because I haven't included any information. During the application stage, this button is non-functional. And then here is an export to Excel option. You can export your budget to Excel to save it, to work on it offline with other people in your organization, to have somebody review it if they don't want to log into Euna. But you do not complete your application in the Excel. You complete it here. The budget summary section tracks what you've entered down below. So total direct cost, total indirect cost, those added together. If you're applying for one of our HUD grants and need to provide matching funds, that's where they would be. And then here's where program income would be. But you all should not have to worry about program income. So those of you who are working on EAF grants, you're only going to have information over here. HUD grant, you might have this. The next section is budget settings. At the top, it says indirect cost. And it allows you to go in and select the type of indirect cost you use. Do not use this drop-down. And I know you're thinking, Susan, I'm going to request indirect costs. This is the drop-down that says what indirect cost I use. If you select your indirect cost type here, it causes bad functionality down below. And we don't want you to have to experience that but bad functionality. So you're just going to leave this as not applicable. If you watch the training videos that are on the external agency fund page, I go through this. If you go through our guide for Euna applicants, I go through this. Just be very mindful as you're filling this out because maybe you're not going to complete this form for another 3 weeks and you might forget. But I just encourage you as you're going through this the completion of this form that you avail yourselves of those resources that we've made available for you. Here, this is going to track any indirect costs that you enter below, and it's fine. It's going to track it automatically. So essentially, you're just going to ignore this, and this is going to track automatically. If anybody's got matching funds, we do have a training video that shows you how to complete this form with matching funds. You may email me if you'd like. I can send that over to you. You external agency fund folks, though, aren't going to fool with this. And here you've got your budget items. So these are your line items, your cost categories. Your budget is going to look different from this budget because we have specific budget categories that we use for different grants. And largely it's because federal program, we're going to use one of the two federal type budgets. And then so that's construction or non-construction. If it's one of our general fund programs, so the external agency fund, each agency has certain costs that they allow. So don't be concerned if your categories don't look exactly like the ones I have here. Down here, you can see there's one for other expenses. It's possible on your budget, it's going to say other and not other expenses. But then there's this other section that has the word other right here, and then has a 1, other, do not use. This is, of course, something that you should not use. If you have other expenses, you're going to put them up above, not in this section. Euna, the company, realized that this was causing confusion, this section, but when they tried to eliminate it, they tested eliminating it caused some functionality problems, so they've left it here but put do not use. Down here, we're not asking you to include program income, so you can just ignore that. Here's a budget narrative. I'm not sure if any of our agencies are asking you to complete the budget narrative, but if they do ask you in your guidelines, you'll want to complete this. And if you're not required to complete it, but there's some sort of information you think is really important for us to consider as we're reviewing your budget, you're welcome to put information here. Otherwise, I would just leave it blank. There's if you're not required to complete this, don't feel like you must. So here's another save button. It's not going to let me save. Now I've walked you through all of this. I'm going to go in and I'm going to put in some cost. Each one of these words or phrases is a hyperlink. When you open it up, it's going to open information. This fills in automatically. It tracks your direct cost and indirect cost. Here is a table. And if you need to add rows, you just click add row. You can right click and remove row. You can go in here. I don't suggest you go in and remove the table, but I'm going to show you if for some reason the table weren't there, you could click on this little icon and click add table. So I'm going to put in some personnel costs and I'm going to do program manager. Now here in this description, you want to provide enough information that the folks who review these applications understand what the cost really is and how it was calculated. I'll tell you just briefly about the review process. The first review, it's not a scoring review, but the first review is completed by Metro staff at our various agencies, and they're looking to make sure you're eligible and that you've provided all of the information that's required for the application. Then it goes to external reviewers, so subject matter experts from outside the government, and then some folks from Metro Council. And they might not have a lot of understanding of your program. Some folks might be experts in what they're doing, but they might not be experts in grant budgets. So you'll want to make sure that you explain how you got here. Now, if you came to training last year or watched last year's videos, you would know I said complete this information, but we went back to Euna and said, is this really necessary? And they said no. So you can put in the title, the description, and then just jump right over to the cost and put that in. And your cost is going to be a direct cost. If you have indirect cost, I'm going to show you down at the bottom how to add that. But any cost you put in these particular line items is going to be a direct cost. Those of you who are applying for HUD and have matching costs, reach out for that video and I'll send it over to you. Now I'm going to try to do this just in an easy way, money-wise. And So here's $30,000. I'm requesting $50,000. That's what I typed in the application. So I'm just going to go down here and let's say we need some laptops. So I'm going to put laptops and I'm going to say we need 20 laptops for participants at $1,000 each. And so I'm going to jump over here and do $20,000. You can see right here, it's put $20,000. I'm going to scroll back up. And now this is going to show that I've got 50,000 in direct cost, 0 in indirect cost, and then the total amount direct plus indirect here is 50,000. Now that's the amount that I'm requesting. So this matches that amount and I should be good and I should be able to go ahead and save this and be done with it. Now, your budget might have a lot of different costs. You might have cost in every line item and you might have multiple staff that you're requesting. And that's fine. The purpose of this training is to just show you the basics, but your budget is likely going to be more complicated than mine. Now, let's say you wanted to request indirect cost. I realize I'm in an impasse here because my budget's already at $50,000, but let's say I filled out the request form without thinking about adding indirect cost. And now I say, oh, I really do want to ask for indirect cost. I can't put it here, so where do I put it? All of your indirect costs are going to go in the other expenses category. You're going to open that up. You might have other expenses already in there. You might have some, say, postage cost or something that you've put there. But you're going to put your indirect cost here. For our external agency fund grants, we allow you to request up to 15% in indirect cost. And I'm not going to go through a whole training here about how indirect costs work. But for the purposes of what I've requested above, I can take that total of $50,000, multiply it by 15%, and request indirect cost using that calculation. So if I take $50,000 times 15%, that is going to be $7,500. So I'm going to put here indirect cost at 15%. I'm going to do 7,500. And now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to change it to indirect cost. So you can see now, yeah, I know, Michael, it can be so confusing. And I did see a question pop up about how many team members. I don't know the answer to that question. I know we had people who had at least 3 team members. If you send me an email, I can follow up via email. I'll reach out to our Euna support team. So here's direct cost, it shows nothing, and over here it shows indirect cost. When I scroll back up, it's going to show that we're charging 15% indirect cost here. You're still going to leave this as not applicable, but it's going to be okay because here we've got $50,000. Here's our indirect cost, and now my request is 57,500. And you know what? I'm going to leave it that way because why shouldn't I request indirect costs if I'm able? I do need to let you folks know who are here for the arts application that for the arts application, you either request 25,000 or 50, and there are no indirect costs for the arts, and that's because we're paying operating cost as opposed to project cost. But you can, based on your budget size, you can request 25 or 75,000. I'm going to save this. If you want, you can write a note. You don't have to write a note. save it, and I'm done. I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to open this application question. I'm going to edit it and I'm going to change this amount to 57,500 and save it again. Unless you have matching funds, so you HUD folks, unless you have matching funds, the amount you put in for your request must match the amount that you've put on your budget. On this budget, do not include your other project costs. Do not include your other organizational costs. So we're almost done. There's just the goals form. I'm going to open this up. And here I actually have some goals to complete. It's very unlikely that you will have to complete this form. If you go in and there's not a table that looks like this, you're done. You don't have to do anything. And I think for all of the external agency funds, this is just a blank page. But here it's asking me, how do I meet these goals? So the number of participants who complete the program, I'm going to say 200. And then it's asking me participants served. And here it's asking me to do that by the grades or grade levels. And one's 9 to 12, and then the next one's young adult. So we're going to serve 150, and we're going to serve 75. And then you would click Save Goals. If for some reason you have goals to complete, we don't ask you to complete this financial piece. We only ask you to complete target units. But again, I don't think you all are going to have, well, that's not true. Office of Social Services might have some goals for you. So we'll look at their application and see if they're on there. You would hit Save Goals. We're going to go back over here. Again, there's a flaw in this portal where it doesn't tell you that you've completed the budget or the goals forms, but we know that they're completed. We know that our budget matches the amount of our request. And all we need to do right now is submit the application. I do strongly encourage you all, as I've written grants for many, many years. Try to have somebody else review everything before you submit. You know, you don't want to submit something in error, but I'm going to just click submit. And there was a little green message here that said submit was complete. And then here, this is showing that it's submitted, which is great. Now I'm going to show you something very confusing. If I go back to my applications page and I look at this, it says status in progress. If I were you and I logged in here and I saw in progress, I would freak out because I would know I had submitted it. Please don't be concerned as long as it says submitted over here, you are good. The reason why it says in progress on these first couple of screens is because the whole grant process is in progress, because once you submit it, somebody's going to go through the review process, then scorers are going to score it, and then we're going to make recommendations, and it's a long process, and that's why it says in progress. Again, once you go into the actual application, you should be good. And if we click here, we can see it's submitted. So my apologies that that's how Euna words this. I wish it said submitted in review in progress or something like that. Now I've completed a full application, but we're going to look at some of the other applications. I'm going to have to pull up some links. It timed out on these links. And I do want to say, if you are a HUD applicant, I put the link to the HUD page in the chat. All right, let me go back in. Since I think there might be goals on the Office of Social Services. Let's go there. And here's their solicitation. I don't have enough time left. We only have a half hour, so I'm going to let you all go through and read all of this, yourselves if you are interested in applying. I do want to point out a couple of things, though, that if you have questions about their application, you want to reach out to Karen. Her information is here. Again, we've got the tech support email here. And then do go to the files page, and here is the handbook or the guidebook for the Office of Social Services External Agency Fund Grants. I'm going to go ahead and jump in and apply. And I'm going to create a new application. I'm not going to go through the whole, I'm not training you on this application. We're looking at this application. Now, if you are applying to Office of Social Services for their external agency fund, you are going to have 2 forms to complete. We'll go in and look at those. You're going to have the budget form, and then you're going to have the goals form. So I'm going to open this goals form. And yes, they do have a goals form for you to complete. They've got case management, and they're asking you to put in how many people you're going to provide educational skills case management to: employment, family counseling, mediation. You can see there are a lot of them. Then there's change in beds available, and that's only if you are operating a homeless shelter. And then there are housing outcomes. So you're going to go through and complete the target units column only, and then you're going to click Save Goals. I'm not going to go through each one of these. Be sure that you review the guidelines really well, and that you read through this goals form more completely. Let's go in and look at their 2 forms. This one's going to look similar to the one that I filled out earlier, where we're asking you for your project title. Here is where they're asking you how much your request is. And then down here is they want you to give your organization name, EIN number, your Louisville Metro Revenue Commission taxpayer number. They want your address, and then authorized representative, business finance representative, project representatives. They don't require you to put a team member. You're welcome to, but you're not required. So that's what their application looks like on the general page, just the basic information page. But if we go to the other page, let's look through this pretty well. Up at the top, it's asking you to certify that you'll need to provide compliance documents, and those documents are listed in the application guidebook. Please carefully review this list and choose whether you can collect all of them or not collect them. So you're going to select one of those. Then certifications good neighbor policy. This is going to ask if you can abide by, comply with the good neighbor policy. And they've provided information in the guidebook about what that means. So you're going to complete this. They've got a question on the homeless population your program will serve. So you're able to select as many that apply. And it looks like other questions pop up when I select this. So this is how many people in this population did you serve last year? So if you've got multiple, you would need to say seniors, 200, individuals diagnosed with a physical or mental disability, 65, something like that. Then which supportive services will your program provide? Select all that apply. Program information, please confirm that the clients this program will serve meet one or more of the following HUD definitions of homelessness. And so you would select any of those that apply. And it's got a drop. Oh no, it's you short answer where you please indicate how you will be able to confirm homeless status. So you would write a response here. Then your program history. Is your program not yet in operation? It's been operating for less than 2 years or more than 2 years. Have you received funding from OSS within the past 2 years? And if you click yes, it gives you information that you need. It says if you have been funded within the last 2 years, OSS's planning and compliance will evaluate your performance using the grantee evaluation template and share the results with the review panel. Scores will be based on spending, submitting reports, ease of working with, and program impact. So it says, are you using HMIS, which is a reporting system, a data collection system? So if you say no, it's going to ask you why you're not using it and are you willing to use it? This asks which Metro Council service district or which Metro Council districts your program serves. If you don't know, they've provided a website link and you can look up your district. And then I'm not sure why they made this change this year, but they've decided that you need to write your program narrative, say in Word or in a PDF, and attach it here instead of writing it in this box. Then what impact did your program have last year? Describe your outcomes from the previous year. You're going to write that in a Word document and upload it. And then this one about your organizational capacity, you're going to write it here. It says optional but strongly encourage, attach additional pamphlets, testimonials, etc. to highlight the impact of your program. So you would click that and upload. Then there's a question about program funding and sustainability. There's a question about your annual budget. And then it asks you, it doesn't give you a form to download for your budget, but it says, please upload a document that lists all funding sources for the program. Please include source and amount, and you would click that and upload it. So that's OSS's application. Let me stop. I thought okay, I'm going to go in and do OVP's applications. That's Office of Violence Prevention YES grants, which are for youth. Let me share. I'm not going to go through these tabs. We're pressed for time, but again, remember to read through all of these tabs. If you need help with contact, there's a contact. Oh, I will show the files because here's a Louisville neighborhood map that you'll need to know whether your program operates in specific zones. And then here is a file that they want you to complete with the application and upload it. It's called KPI fillable template, or KPI means key performance indicator. So it basically says, what impact are you going to have with these funds? I'm going to hit apply. Create new application. I'm going to look at goals. This is what it looks like when there are no goals. If you click in here and it says no solicitation goals specified, you're done. You don't even have to hit save. You've completed that. There's nothing to do there. So we're going to go into these two application forms. And you can see here project title, organization name. All of this is just the general information, but down at the bottom is how much in grant funding is being requested for this program. Make sure this amount equals the amount you request on the budget form. So we're going to go into the other application form. And they want your Louisville Metro Revenue Commission number. Thanks, Michael. Take care. They want you to upload your most recent 990 tax return. It asks if the program only serves residents of Jefferson County. Do you have the capability to report residential addresses for youth served? I'm just checking these options to see if any other questions pop up. Do you have the capability to report demographic data? Which age group will you serve? So check all that apply. Check which program type you're implementing. So primary prevention, secondary prevention, intervention, or victim support. Where will the services and activities take place? So this is asking you to pick specific neighborhoods. If you selected other, please provide the addresses where program activities will occur. In which Louisville Metro Council districts does your organization offer programming? Please list any grants your agency has received from Louisville Metro government in the past 2 years. So you're going to type them here. Applicants should request a minimum of $25,000 with $75,000 set as the maximum grant amount. So they have a cap of $75,000, but you can apply for anything between those two numbers. If we can provide only part of the funding you have requested, how would your organization adapt? So here's a question, here's a space for you to respond. Please describe the specific steps your organization will take during the grant year to improve financial sustainability and strengthen your capacity for fundraising and securing additional grants. Right there. Problem statement, and you can see this says you're going to get up to 15 points. They've let you know that this is the scoring section and how many points are available. So you're going to write about your problem. This says a strong response will include this information. I highly encourage you to make sure you include everything that makes a strong response. Organizational capacity, this is 30 points and it's got a strong response. Program project description, this is also 30 points. And measurable program outcomes and community impact. And you want to make sure you describe how you will collect data aligned with the goals of the agency and that you have to upload that KPI template that I showed you in the solicitation. And this section is worth 10 points. Then they tell you to complete the budget form. Sorry, this is a long application. So you're going to complete this, but then they're telling you that you also need to complete this work program and budget. And it says 2 requirements for budget completion. Complete the budget form in Euna, which is the one at the top, and complete the attached budget template and upload. So you'll download it and then you'll upload it. All right, that is Office of Violence Prevention's application. We're going to look at arts and creative industries. So these are our arts and culture grants. They've got the guide for using Euna, so they've provided it for you. They've got your grant guidelines and then also a Euna FAQ document. And again, I'll let you all review all these other tabs. So I'm going to hit apply, create new application. We're going to look at their goals form. I don't think there's going to be anything there. Yes, so you do not have to complete the goals form for arts. And they've got the core information form. And so with the arts grants, I mentioned earlier that they don't fund projects, they fund organizations, so operating costs. Yet in Euna, there's a required field called project title. So they tell you at the beginning that instead of putting the name of a project, that you will put the name of your organization underscore operating support underscore fiscal year 27. So be sure you complete it that way. And then they've provided some helpful information here. If you're not sure who your authorized representative is or who your award manager, they've changed this name to award manager. So they tell you exactly who at your organization would be the right person for each of these. I like that. But otherwise, this is really similar to the other applications. And then here's the main application form.
Susan, I want to ask
Absolutely.
you again on that. What? How do you put? Because I had looked at that and I didn't know what to say. As far as the arts, my organization name, put that under the project title. How did
Under
you?
project title, what's the name of your organization?
The Kentucky BIPOC Filmmakers Association.
I'm sorry, Kentucky.
Yeah, and then it's B capital all caps BIPOC
Oh, okay.
U. Put a U on
You.
there. Yeah, BIPOC
Oh, okay.
BIPOCU. That U stands for United, just in case anybody
Oh,
was
great.
BIPOC United. Filmmakers is the
Is
next
that
word.
one word?
Yeah, one word. Filmmakers with the S, and then association. Should I? I guess I should use exactly what's in there. Would be Inc. The Association Inc.
So I
Okay, I
will
should.
say they're not asking necessarily for your legal name, but
Okay,
you can put your legal name. I
okay.
don't
I
I don't
usually
I don't think it's going to
yeah.
cause too much difficulty if you do that. But here's essentially how you would write it, but you could put Inc.
Score operating. Maybe is it operating support underscore FY27?
That's right.
FY27. Okay,
All righty.
thank you.
You're welcome. So let's look at their application. Their application is going to be very different from the others because they're going to drill down into your organization and the type of arts programming or cultural programming you provide. So they've got a drop down where you select what your main discipline is, your board approved mission statement, a one sentence description of your organization's work. Are you located in Jefferson County and primarily serve residents of Jefferson County? Has your organization operated in Jefferson County as a standalone 501c3 registered with the IRS for a period of at least 2 years? So you would complete that. Is the total operating budget of your organization greater than 25,000? So it's really important that the answer is yes, because we can't award more than what your budget is, and our lowest request is 25,000. And here's what they say about this. Only organizations with total organizational budgets exceeding 500,000 are eligible for $50,000 awards. So if your budget is 500,000 or less, you must request 25,000. If your budget is half a million of more than half a million, you can request whichever one you want.
And that's only for the arts application, correct?
Only for arts.
Thank you.
And then here it says, please ensure that the total budget requested in your external budget form adds up to the awarded tier you selected in the prior section. So they mean this. Make sure this is either 25 or 50, whichever one you're requesting. They've got a lot of questions. I don't feel like it's a good use of time for me to thoroughly read through all of these because since we do have a few minutes, I'm going to try to show the HUD application. But this is about artistic and cultural value, and this section's worth 30% of your score. So they ask primary programs, program development, artistic and staff support. Then a community impact section also worth 30%. And they're asking which Metro Council districts are you located in? Do you not are you located? My apologies. where's your programming going to be? So you get to count any district where your programming is, arts and cultural access, engagement examples, partnership and community connections. And as you'll see, each one of these has instructions and a better description of what they're asking for. Section 3 is organizational effectiveness and financial stability, also 30%. They give you what a strong response is. Make sure that you're reflecting those strong responses. So this is effectiveness and expertise, leadership and governance, your sustainability plan, and then budget details. They also want you to download a budget template, complete it, and upload it. And let's see, this is your organization budget. So they want your entire organizational budget here, unlike your request budget, which is here. All right. So that's arts. I am going to try real quick to show this HUD one. And to be honest, I just have briefly looked at the HUD application a few weeks ago as I was making sure everything looked correct before we went live with it. I'm not as familiar with the questions on the HUD application. Here's a guidebook. Here's contact information. I'm just going to go ahead and hit apply. If anybody came in late and doesn't know what the HUD application is, we offer some housing related grants through the U.S. Office of Housing and Urban Development funds that we receive, and then we pass on to other organizations. You can go on to the page that I linked to in the chat to get more information. Here, we've got the core information form. It's going to look really familiar. Here's where you put how much you're requesting. Everything else looks like the EAF form. And then here's the real application form, the important piece of it. To apply for federal funding, you have to have something called a unique entity identifier from the Federal System for Award Management, which is sam.gov. You can find more information at sam.gov. And this is asking if you are in good standing with the Kentucky Secretary of State and the System for Award Management. And this says yes. If you say no, this still says RCS. We didn't notice this before the application went live. It should say OSS. They can assist you if you don't understand this requirement. Another set of certifications, just like the ones from the External Agency Fund, about providing compliance documents, complying with the Good Neighbor policy, program information. It's asking what your project is. So a project that increases the bed capacity of overnight or 24-hour emergency shelter, supporting CDBG eligible services that assist individuals residing in permanent supportive housing, et cetera. So you would check which one. If you're an organization that serves people who have been diagnosed with HIV or AIDS, you could be eligible for HOPWA funding, which is a special HUD program. And if in that case, you would complete these. Then it's asking you which one of the HUD funds you want to apply for, and there are various. I don't have time to go through what all of these mean, but if you go to that HUD webpage on Office of Social Services, it'll break all this down for you. There's the federal definition of homelessness that you have to complete, program information. So this is about participants. It looks like what their income is, if they're low income, etc. The history of your program, if you've received funding from OSS within the past 2 years, And if so, note that they're going to consider that when they consider you for new funding. Data collection, are you using HMIS? If not, why not? Are you willing to be? Again, they're asking you to write your program narrative and your program income from last year on a Word document and upload it. You're welcome to upload it as a PDF, however you want to upload it. This is about organizational capacity, effectiveness, and financial stability. Here you can add additional information about your achievements, pamphlets, testimonials, etc. Program funding, so that's if they don't award you all your funding, how are you going to adapt? Your sustainability plan for the next year, your annual budget, so that's your organizational budget. They're going to ask you to upload a document that lists all the funding sources for the program. And then for HOPWA only, please upload a breakout of how much funding your agency is requesting for each HOPWA activity. And that is their application. So I'm going to go through chat to see if I missed any. Okay, I don't see any. I thought that I saw someone else write a question, but I do not see it in the chat. So please let me know. You're welcome to unmute yourself if you have questions now. And I don't have a hard stop. If we run over, I'm happy to stay to answer questions. Well, I don't hear any. I appreciate you attending. I hope this was helpful. Be sure to reach out to those Metro agency contacts that are listed on the solicitations if you have any questions about the applications, or reach out to Euna Solution Support if you have any tech issues. I think it's February 5th. I will be holding office hours for grant writing, but check me on that external agency fund main page. And great, I'm glad to hear that, Desiree. And lastly, if anybody wasn't here at the beginning, on the 23rd and 24th in the mornings, that's of February, the last 2 days of the application, I'll be holding office hours if you're having any trouble navigating the system. I cannot solve real technical problems, but we often find that people think that they're having technical problems and it's not actually a technical problem. It's just they forgot to do something or I didn't follow instructions. So please join me those mornings if you haven't applied already and you need any last minute help. We want to see as many people apply for these grants as possible and don't want you to have any problems with it. All right, I'm going to give one last call for questions. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you all very much. Please take care and good luck with